Obama spoke with the New York Times last week. He said he was worried about the effects of income inequality. Take a listen.
There was a sense of not upward mobility in the abstract. It was part and parcel of who we were as Americans. And that's what's been eroding over the last 20, 30 years. Here we are, having dealt with this massive crisis, but those trends have continued. And that's what people sense. That's why people are anxious. That's why people are frustrated.
Okay, more on the data here. There's a study showing 11% of working class whites live in poverty compared to 23% of non-whites. But the rate among whites, that's growing faster than non-whites. Kelly, what does it say to you?
Well, it says that the president still has a lot of work to do on the economy, particularly in terms of his legacy. I mean, it would be a real tragedy if the first black president presided over one of the worst times in history to be a black American in this country. And the Economic Policy Institute actually says that the numbers have been so bad for black Americans, while a lot of other groups have begun to recover from the recession, that they actually refer to it as a slow-moving, perpetual recession among black Americans. And, you know, when you were mentioning all those horrible numbers, Richard, I think one of the things that sort of got left out and speaks to why he's having a tough time really getting stuff through Congress is I don't think the Democrats have done an effective enough job of reframing the face of poverty in this country. I think there are people, I have conversations with people who are still convinced that anyone in poverty is not trying hard enough, is not working hard enough, is a freeloader who doesn't want a job, and yet the data just out from last month shows that the leading cause of bankruptcies is now medical catastrophes. So that's someone who's worked for a living, people who have health insurance, and then a tragedy comes along and combined with the economy, they can't get back on their feet. That's what I think the president and the Democrats need to do a better job of talking about.
The working class vote, so important in this next election, something the president didn't do so well in 2012. I want to turn to a piece that you wrote, though. And we were teasing this at the top of our segment, and that has to do with the feud between two very famous people about social responsibility.
Right, and I actually hate the term feud because to me a feud denotes that people are
disagreement. How about that?
Are on equal footing, and I don't consider Harry Belafonte and Jay Z on equal footing in any stretch of the imagination because Harry Belafonte's legacy and impact on this country is so much far larger than Jay Z's will ever be. And the reason I say that is because, you know, Harry Belafonte gave some criticism to Jay Z and Beyoncé for not using their celebrity enough to impact social responsibility. Jay Z responded in an ever so classy fashion, yes, I use sarcasm, by dissing Harry Belafonte in some rap lyrics with language I will not repeat on family programming. And what, you know, I wanted to just, I was so appalled by this, as are a lot of people, because Harry Belafonte is someone who helped fund the Freedom Rides. He's the reason I can sit at this table with you all today, because he helped fight for equality that way. He was the first black celebrity to help a president get elected. He filmed an advertisement for JFK. He helped support Martin Luther King's family financially. I mean, these are the types of impact that a legend like Harry Belafonte has had on this country. And meanwhile, you look at Jay Z's philanthropic efforts. In 2010, he made $63 million. He gave about $6,000 to his own charity.
Well, he's worth about $500 million. I want to play a little bit of what Harry Belafonte said when All In with Chris Hayes. Take a listen to this.
I would hope with all my heart that Jay Z would not take personally what was said, because it was not said about him personally. It was a question asked by a leading question given by a member of the press in Switzerland. Having said that, I would like to take this opportunity to say to Jay Z and to Beyoncé, I'm wide open. My heart is filled with nothing but hope and the promise that we could sit and have a one-on-one and let's understand each other.
So, Daphne, some estimate their net worth, both Jay Z and Beyoncé together, about $800 million. But Jay Z saying, hey, his presence is charity. Do they have an obligation here to be more involved?
You know, in some ways, this is like, this is a little bit of like the Trayvon Martin generation. I mean, this is a discussion that came right out of the Zimmerman verdict, and sort of who was out front and what kind of response could we get out of community, out of celebrities, out of leaders in this country, who would kind of stand up and say something. And I think, you know, first you see people sending out supportive tweets, and you know, here you have, you know, somebody saying, you know, for people who are worth $800 million, that may not be enough.